Hi there, it's Dawn. It's September 9th. Just got back from the neurologist's office, and to tell you the truth, I'm kind of stunned. I was ready for him, I tell you. I had the written report of my Doppler. I had the Doppler ultrasound itself. I was ready to go. I got my chest all puffed up, and I go into the waiting room, and there was nobody there. So I kind of sat down. And then a door opens, and there's my neurologist standing there, and he says, "And you are?" Okay, we're off to a good start. So anyway, I told him who I was, and that he's like, "Okay, well, come on in." Sits down, opens up my medical chart, and he goes, "So I see that you have tested positive for CCSVI, and you're going for treatment in just a few weeks." Yeah, okay, where's this big battle, I'm thinking. He says, "Can you tell me where you're going?" Okay, so I'm shocked at this point. I told him that I was going to Albany, New York, and he asked me he wanted to know how much everything cost. He said he'd had patients that went to Bulgaria and Poland and India, and that they were spending large amounts of money for this treatment. And I said, "Well, I'm going to Albany, New York." He says, "And what are you having done? And how much does it cost?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to have venography." And he says, "Oh, well, that's the gold standard." "Yeah, tell me something I don't know." "And that's $3,000. I said, "And then if they find blockages, which the test indicates something's going on with my jugulars, then that's $2,000, and if I need stents, they're $2,000 a piece." And when I said stents, he kind of got this look on his face, and I'm like, "Listen, you know, I don't really want any stents. I'm hoping to avoid them, but since I can't have, you know, regular treatment here in Canada, if that's what it takes to keep the blood flowing, that's what I gotta do." So he was fine with that. He said, "I didn't realize, you know, it was so close to home." I said, "Yeah, they're doing it, and they're doing a lot of them." I said, "The doctor that I'm going to see has seen over a couple hundred patients and treated them." "Oh, I doubt he's done that many," my neurologist said. And I said, "No, he's been doing them for a while now, and he's done a lot of them. So I have every faith in the world in him for doing this for me." And he says, "Okay, well, just curious, how much was the Doppler ultrasound that you had done?" I said, "Actually, the ultrasound was covered by OHIP." He goes, "Covered by OHIP?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, you must have gone to Barrie." And I said, "No, I didn't go to Barrie." He says, "Well, it must have been Port Perry." So he knows what's going on. He's just not leading on that he does. I said, "No, actually, I went down to Toronto." And he said, "Toronto?" And I said, "Yeah." And I showed him the report, and he looks at the letterhead, and he goes, "That's right in downtown Toronto." And I said, "Yeah, it's right in downtown Toronto." And he says, "This is covered by OHIP." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's covered by OHIP." He goes, "Well, there's just going to be places popping up all over then." Wouldn't that be nice? He did read the report, was very honest, and I got to give credit where credit is due. He read the report and said that he really didn't understand the body of the report because he's never read a Doppler report done on the jugular. So he was at least honest that way. He said he wouldn't tell me not to have the treatment, like he could, and he said he couldn't tell me to have the treatment, but he is interested to see what effect it has on me. He did the regular neurological, you know, dog and pony show, and he says he wants to see me a month after I get back so that he can do that again and see if there's any improvement. So I went in with guns a-blazing and had the wind blown down my sails. But, you know, that was a good thing. Maybe the winds are changing when it comes to our neurological community. And proof of that is that this is the very first time I've had anything to do with anybody, doctor, nurse-wise, in multiple sclerosis where they didn't even mention drugs. I couldn't believe it. So that was about that. I did have to kind of get my dig in on the way out. He went to go open the door, and he wished me luck, and I said, "Yep, I'll be back, and you know, $5,000 for this treatment's a real bargain compared to that $40,000 a year you want me to spend on drugs." My bad. I couldn't help myself. So anyway, that's how that went. Quick update on the fundraising. Online, I'm up to $1,100. I've saved a whole bunch of change and stuff here at where I work. Lots of change donations. So many generous people sending in checks. I've collected all that. I've given it to my mother, who is trying to figure out how to make the online donation of $1,000, and hopefully she'll get there. Another generous guy said I could have his change jar, which he estimates at around $300 because it's not counted, and I don't mind doing it. So that brings me up to my $2,500 mark. And at that mark, my angel matches with her donation. So that's the way it goes. I'm pretty excited. 22 sleeps to go. And yeah, that's the way it is. So keep the fundraising donations coming in if you can, because whatever I don't need is going to my friend Deb up north. And she could really use our help too now that I've reached my mark. So anyway, tried to make it quick. Never really happens. As my sister always says, angioplasty for all. Anything less is unacceptable.